Can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. Now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Mr. Naruhodo! Good morning, Professor Hairbrain. I don't understand! It doesn't make any sense! The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts! I've never felt anything like it! It's crushing me! I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. What are you telling me is fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably on the mind. Oh, yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life! To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public! Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. Oh, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail! My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Bruno, leaving me alone with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him. Oh, is it? Are you? Sherlock Sholmes! Indeed, sir, I am he. Sherlock Sholmes! Oh, I've heard about your exploits. It was the thing in Germany. Ah, yes, Rain's magazine is on sale in Germany too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in the Adventure of Silver Blades was wonderful. Ah, yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. Actually? No, that was the speckled band. Thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. I have urgent business, Madame, to spill. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then, I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable memories, you might say. Oh yes, quite, definitely, absolutely. I totally understand. Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Hairbrain. Why, thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runa, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree. But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding, in fact, succeed? That's contradictory. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. It looks like you're on your own today, Runa. But you know, you can do it. What about you, Iris? I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. It's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. That sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant! Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We're on our way. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Yunosuke. That's the key to this case. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrain. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord! I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm without Susato-san today. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual? So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odi Asman. Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court prosecuted by you, Lord Von Zeeks. But the jury unanimously found him not guilty, because every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. But 2 days ago, on 21st October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. But the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrain. Very well then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty? I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. To have a man's face in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, It sends shivers down my spine. Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances. Any spurious scholar that defiles the reputation of science deserves to hang.
You have to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence, and then sign on one. That's it, isn't it?
Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all. That's the police killer Ultimo lookalike. Again. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I'm sure you are all aware, the incident we are here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition, shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse, with the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all London, no, of the whole world will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement please, Lord Von Zieks. At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good Lord! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness, how shocking! The whole idea is absurd! The hypothesis will never stand up to scrutiny! Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field? I am, and my word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock! So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused's instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. What? What? Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But this disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Oh. Excuse me. There we go, jeez. Thank you, Lord Von Zieks. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth the witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation.
Albert Harebrain, scientist!
You were born in England but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct?
Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition.
What you demonstrated was incredible, right? An incredible explosion!
The science was a success! The instantaneous kinesis worked! Everyone saw it! It must have done! Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success!
Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seemed the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well, submit the photograph as evidence. As the court heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Asman. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, it was a man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see. So to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration?
That's right! That must be it! My splendid machine! My poor splendid machine!
You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
Ah! Wreckage! The wreckage!
But that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon! Isn't that right, witness?
Oh, sorry, me!
No, your neighbor. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty.
What? How can he possibly think that?
Thank you, Inspector. I think we better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front of murder. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck.
I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake.
But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where he had clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere. And this fella's the only one who could have done it. Stabbed. extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart. Information I would have really liked to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner says death will have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused.
No! No! That couldn't be further from the truth!
I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the birdcage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the Crystal Tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in mid-air, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the Crystal Tower's large round window. My word! One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower then.
I'm so sorry! I didn't mean for this to happen! The machine was just too powerful! But honestly, really, I swear, it was just an accident! A terrible accident!
Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart.
Murder weapon? What are you saying?
This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. The only other person on the stage with Mr. Asman was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist.
And really, by all accounts, it must have been him.
Hard to think otherwise, really. Very well. Counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. Well, I say let's go through the evidence before we dive in. Autopsy report by Courtney Sith, or Scythe. Japanese say Sith, so I'm gonna go with Sith. Details of victim. Time of death is 21st of October at around 2:20. The cause of death was a hemorrhage from a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations include a broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Wait, that's it, right? Yep, okay. Just making sure. Photograph. Did we investigate this? I don't remember. We can't really look. It looks like layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. I've never seen anything like it before, but applying Mr. Sholmes' methods, you might deduce it was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really didn't want to get wet. Was it even raining? And the charring must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Okay. Or maybe not. I don't think so, mate. Oh wow, I really have not looked at any of this. I am so sorry. Taking the opportunity now, we cannot... can we not... Okay, oh, wait. There we go. Jeez. Ah, there's some sort of lever here. What is this? Looks like a cross between a bomb and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing too. A crossbow. Oh. I wonder where it came from. I believe that's it. The corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck. Alright. Let me do a once over, and then if we find nothing, we'll press. I made a minor miscalculation. That is not a mistake you want to make. I thought you should be careful as a scientist. But the post revealed another injury, a fatal wound. Yep, we can see that in the picture. There was a lesion in his chest, something sharp. Okay, I'm gonna need you to be specific on that. Alright, let's press this one. The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere? Thanks. So, what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused tools that were used at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. Ah, yes. Ah! There he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew! Andrew, of course. Do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big happy family. Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. That isn't. It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No! And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound. What?! Order! The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence. Ew. So one of Professor Hairbrain's tools is a murder weapon. Great! It doesn't have to be him. I would hope not. Don't want another McGill did. Ooh. This is blood. Mr. Asman's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. Moving on. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. I believe that's it. Alright. Time for some flavor text.
Hold it!
Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly. Which highlights something else about this whole ramen business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. After the explosion, the cage with the fellow inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in mid-air. So although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster?
Hold it!
So that angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally?
Absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out.
Only, you got it wrong, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated that even I made a mistake.
Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it.
I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened.
Obviously then, you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Asman was wearing at the time, I suppose.
Oh! Crackling comets! The answer should have been 3!
So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. Taking everything into account. Interesting.
Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say?
That doesn't make any sense!
I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? Too worried. Obviously, at first we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case! You'll get your answer once I finish my fish and chips if you don't keep butting in every few seconds! Oh no, that's a bottomless bag. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that as the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it? There was a lesion in his chest where he clearly had been stabbed by something I think we pressed that already, didn't we?
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Ha! Do you really need to ask? There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odi Asman, and the accused, Professor Hairbrain. We know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes! Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on the stage with the victim could have possibly done it. Please tell me you have something helpful to say. Professor Hairbrain, do you have some information that might be relevant here? Professor!
Sorry! I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body.
The witness stand is the best place for that. It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Grayson's last remark.
Yes, that's right, of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh?
I don't know, but there's no way that I could have possibly stabbed Mr. Asman, as you say.
Hey?
Explain, please, Professor. Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not have been aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with cold running continuously through our veins.
I had heard.
And surely you see! If I plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool! Thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet none of them claim to have seen a swimming pool of blood.
Well, no, I suppose not.
You see, not one!
True, I didn't see anything like that.
Done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument.
Dang, I need to refill my hallowed chalice. Be right back. Pray forgive the discourtesy of leaving to get my own hallowed chalice. If I savour a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert.
Oh, you're too kind, Baroque. But I'm really not a patch on you.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh, so many technical difficulties. No, you're not. Pouring it loud. No. You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility.
I have.
A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? Very well. You will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body when it was beamed through the air. Left in his body. Wait. That's when the location of this screwdriver comes in.
Objection!
You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. According to us. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend. Even on your side of the world. Wink, wink. Yes, but about the screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw her at the scene ourselves. On the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. The screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool still had been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. And been found still lodged in the victim's chest. Ah! Order! How do you explain this, Inspector? Well, I don't. It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support can't be relied upon. Von Zieks is stumped. Do you have something to say, witness? Yes, I knew it! It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry! About what? Without delving into the details, there is no inconsistency. What? Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Asman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. What? It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation. Just when I found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Very well. The defendant will testify again. Provide us with the scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord! To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states that kinesis cannot transport metal though, hence the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Asman was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have the duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. Really digging yourself a hole there, mate. So, the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage despite the victim being found elsewhere is not an inconsistency. Therefore, Professor Albert Harebrain could still have been the killer. My great hypothesis holds, you see. We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from Warden for that very reason. I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Harebrain? Yes? Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all. Working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend.
Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo.
Alright, well. Still at the stage. Now, your kinesis cannot transport metal. What is this? Do you care to share?
Objection!
Professor Harebrain, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct.
In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asman is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim.
What? Metal? No, metal? That's not... Metal! No!
We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would have been found in the same place.
Ah! My hypothesis!
Professor Harebrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed.
Ah!
Order! Counsel, what is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit.
But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment wasn't a success. The experiment was proof of all my work.
If I could say something here in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science.
Wait! Great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is suspect?
It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, bounder, and a fraud. I say the wreckage of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined.
No! Never! That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
What the devil is that blasted act about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. It's the best way to help me protect the... oh my god! Oh! Oh shoot, I don't know! What do we object? Maybe I should wait and watch for the time being. Watch and wait... Ah! My feeling is that the machine requires a thorough examination. Rude! But what about this special dispensation that's been something mentioned? Oh gosh, this is all too much! If it's determined that the machine itself was the murder weapon, I think you'll find that act won't apply. Of course it was the murder weapon! Anyone can see that as plain as day! So we're all in agreement, are we? That the machine should be stripped. If I don't do something, they'll... Professor Harebrain has yet to perfect his invention. that would seem to be the case, yes? But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public. He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money. Oh. If the government was foolish enough to have deemed the man's ridiculous notion plausible, he and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators? What would be the value of such a grant? £10? You're an order of magnitude out, madam. £500 a year!
Oh, you could live handsome on that much for years.
The society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you.
Least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound. The science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success. Ah, Barak! And therefore, the only person who could have possibly committed this murder is the accused.
Barak.
Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord von Zeeks. The prosecution would like to summon you witnesses to the stand. You witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition, who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses. Very well. The court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from the witnesses to the incident. The prosecution's stance is clear. This experiment was no postage. The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Yes? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. It's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witness to take the stand. Witnesses. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes.